We've always viewed Poppi as fashion. Health is the new wealth. We wanted it to be something that people wanted to be seen with. A badge, sort of this affordable luxury that people could grab at the store and feel good about themselves. Texans support Texas brands. A lot of great brands and a lot of great businesses that give back and continue to invest in Texas.
What's next, Austin?
1% better every day.
Ignite your curiosity with Austin Next. I explore how ecosystems are built and how tech shapes the future. Austin is the frontier. It's where innovation takes root and new myths are made. Join What's Next. First off, congratulations on the sale of Poppi.
Yeah, thank you. It was almost a 10-year overnight success.
Oh, that's it. Simple, right?
Yeah, simple, easy.
Okay, that's actually a great place to start because I think when you and I first connected, Poppi launched in 2020.
It did.
So that's 5 years.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't just appear obviously out of nowhere. So kind of talk to me about what happened, what was the start of the first 5 years and then the launch?
Yeah, so I think it was, I guess 9 years. We'll shave off a little bit of time there. But yeah, it was sort of... it was really what we call the dark days. And it was really interesting because as, obviously listening to your podcast and talking about tech and some of the differences between, sort of tech startups and CPG startups is, money's a lot harder to come by. And so in those early days, you really have to prove out concept. You have to get product market fit. It's all about product development. And we had no money. We just put in life savings and things like that. But it was really just trying to figure it out for the first couple of years, get product market fit, and then ultimately show what those revenue and the opportunity is, and go and get funding. So it was sort of in the kitchen.
So how do you think about product market fit for CPG from looking at like the trends and following them versus, hey, that's a fad, like you got to that reputation, or even like the edge case of like, well, we're starting the trend.
Yeah.
And I would assume if you start the trend, that's also going to lead to bigger outcomes. So how do you kind of measure, like where did the idea come from?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. For us, we were completely new to CPG. My wife and I started the business. We were in oil and gas previously to that. And so it's not like we just, pulled some
how did that jump happen?
Yeah. It's not like we pulled spins data or walked the aisle and said, hey, where are the white space? We weren't analyzing data and saying, oh, we think there's an opportunity here. It really started as a solution to a personal problem. Mm-hmm. And so my wife and I were traveling on the road in oil and gas in these small towns. Really the only food options were fast food, not access to a lot of even good fresh produce. So obviously we would cook at home, but just in the hustle and bustle of life and working, we just weren't eating great food. And so she started to have these symptoms, these health issues, gut problems. She started having issues with her skin. She was her whole body was kind of inflamed. And so she was like, this is not sustainable. I've got to figure out what's going on. And so really through that process of trying to figure out what was going on, she discovered how important food was and the types of foods that you eat. So she stumbled across apple cider vinegar as a great ingredient to sort of help detox and reset the body. And so she started drinking it. Within 2 weeks, she loved the way it made her feel. But she hated the taste and literally couldn't get anybody else to drink it.
I have tried it before, and yes,
yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah, so most people are like, oh yeah, I take a shot every morning, and then you really dig in. You're like, how long do you last for? They're like 2 days. It's a great ingredient that people have been taking for centuries. But it just doesn't taste very good. And so that's really where the spark is like, how do we preserve the health benefits of apple cider vinegar and deliver it in a way that people can actually enjoy, that tastes great, and is ultimately a product that they can feel good about. And so as we sort of go back to the fads and trends and whatnot, I think for us, it just started with solving a real problem. Mm-hmm. That problem first started with us, within our family. And as we interacted with consumers, tested the product with consumers, we just saw that there was a bigger need for it.
I mean, it's such a standard entrepreneurship, is you have the problem that you personally faced.
Exactly.
And then you're like, I'm going to fix this. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times there are more than just you that have that same problem.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's that authenticity. It's that why that provides the anchor and allows you to build not just a product, but a brand in a community. And I think it's that brand and community that transcends fads. If you're solving a real problem and many people have that problem and you can build that community and authenticity, I think that that's really key to that staying power, right? And surpassing just a fad.
So how do you think about like the innovation, like R&D process? Because I'm assuming that, okay, once you said we want this same health benefits of apple cider vinegar, and it needs to taste good, like that's not a simple like formula of like, okay, well I can just, write a piece of code that does that. I mean, is it, I mean, how many iterations would you say you guys went through?
I mean, I can't even count. So in the dark days, as we called it, there was many flavors that just aren't still around. They were too niche. And I think when we launched this, it was more adjacent to kombucha. And ultimately, found our positioning as a better for you soda, and ultimately took the risk of calling it a modern soda. But it was hundreds of iterations on the flavors that did last. There are some flavors that have lasted the test of time. So we've got our raspberry rose, our ginger lime was around. I really think that those are the only two that have made it. But I think it's just interacting with the consumer. What is the feedback? And then I think as you continue to tinker, myself, my wife, our entire company really operates with a growth mindset. So it's how do you get 1% better every day? And with scale, you have more opportunities to interact with the best suppliers in the world, right? And get it for better costs, better quality. There's new ingredients that are coming out, and there's a lot of sort of food tech, as we call it, new ingredients that you can add to the product to make it taste even better and deliver the same functional benefits in just a better tasting liquid.
How do you were talking earlier, like there's a certain, during the dark days, an inflection point. You had to hit product market fit and then you could get funding. So how would you go about experimenting with the public when, I'm assuming in the early day, like you weren't on store, you weren't in stores, like is it festivals, is it food truck, like how does this kind of iteration process work?
Yeah, we had no idea what we were doing. I'm just going to be honest, but we were passionate and we worked our butts off.
Yeah, I think if any entrepreneur actually knew what it took going in, they'd never do it.
Exactly. We say that. We literally say that all the time. It was a hobby. We were still working oil and gas, and we were sitting around the kitchen table, myself, my wife Allison, and her dad, and we were kind of figuring out what was next. We were thinking about starting a family and didn't want to be on the road. And he goes, "Why didn't you guys sell your hooch?" And so it was literally called hooch at this time.
There's famous words in those moments that become the tipping points of anything, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what was the next obvious step? We took it to the farmers market.
Okay.
And so it was really at the farmers market, Saturday and Sunday, Dallas farmers market. There's a big crowd, a lot of opportunity to interact and just sample to a bunch of different people. And it was honestly there that we got our first break. We had a really busy booth. People were, trying the product. They were talking about it. There's a ton of energy surrounding it. And there was this local forager from Whole Foods. And we can talk about this later because Whole Foods is so pivotal to our story.
I think this is perfect. I mean,
and she came up, and I'm sampling with some people. And so my wife just casually sampled her and was talking about the product. And she tried it. She's like, oh my gosh, like this product is amazing. She's like, I'm here on vacation with my mom. I don't really typically do this, but I'm Kelly. I'm from Whole Foods. I'm a local forager. Like, you guys have to be in Whole Foods. I love what you guys are doing here. And so this, I think, was our third weekend at the farmers market.
Oh, wow.
So we got pretty lucky.
So what year are we at this point?
So this is farmers market was like July 2016.
Okay.
And so those were like really our first bottles that we ever sold.
Yeah.
Sort of the idea came late 2015. Started putting some things together, tinkering just as a hobby, and really like the first bottles sold were June or July of 2016 at the Dallas farmers market. So that was our big break. Kelly came by and said, "Hey, I want to work with you guys. Let's get you guys into Whole Foods." And so Allison turned to me and she was like, "That was Whole Foods. Like, this is incredible." And I think that was sort of our outside validation to say, "Hey, maybe we have something here."
So is that the point at which you started to have to go get funding, or like how does the venture funding world work in CPG?
I wish I would have known more at the time. Yeah, but for us, we maxed out our credit cards. The typical American dream.
Yeah.
Maxed out our credit cards, took our life savings, which was not much. We spent too much, I guess, when we were working oil and gas. But we had put in about $35,000 of our own money, and when we finally got the opportunity to go into Whole Foods, we passed the hat and got some friends and family to put in some money. And raised a total of sort of $90,000, $35,000 from us, and then $30,000 from Allison's sister and from Allison's dad. And so that was really all of the money that we had to go out and sort of get this thing shelf ready.
Mm-hmm. So at that point, when you're going shelf, like how's the manufacturing part come into this? How does that change at scale? Like,
yeah.
I mean, obviously, when we think about with Pepsi coming on, that's a whole different animal in terms of scale and manufacturing and what they're able to do. But in this early like, how much is like in your house versus that you go outside and start actually getting bottles? I don't even know what the right kind of terms are in this.
Yeah. So it one foot in front of the other, I guess, is how we did it. And I think, we learned a lot along the way. But we literally started in our kitchen. All of the bottles we were selling at the farmer's market and even local stores, we were operating under this thing called the cottage law. And we were able to do that legally, sell to other outlets, making it literally out of our kitchen. So our garage was our warehouse. Our entryway was our staging area. We literally had vats of vinegar in our downstairs bedroom, and that was like that was sort of like the steeping area. And then literally, because we were in a 3-story townhome, and then upstairs in the living room by our kitchen was like the production line. And so that was step one. Once we were gearing up to go into Whole Foods, we got a warehouse, and we essentially turned it into a small production facility. So learning everything from writing HACCP plans, what food safety protocol is, really getting it all set up. And if you think about it, if you could picture it, it sort of looks like a small craft brewery is essentially what we had. We had a walk-in cooler. We had a couple bright tanks, which are those big silver sort of tanks that beer is put into and cooled down and carbonated and then eventually filled out of. And so that was really the way that we were operating to get us really that first, call it $500,000 or $750,000 in sales. It sort of allowed us to, with confidence, say, okay, I think we've got something here. And so we had some early investors in the community that had reached out and were wanting to put in money.
And you're still in Dallas at this point?
We're still in Dallas at this point. And because of the traction, we knew we needed some additional money. We were getting opportunities from Albertsons and Safeway. We were scaling in Whole Foods. We had opportunities to go into Sam's Club. And we said, hey, we need some money. So those opportunities were coming in, but my wife was scrolling on Instagram. And just 2 days before the event, saw that Shark Tank open casting was going to be in Dallas. And we were literally 5 minutes from the American Airlines Center, where it took place. And so we basically put things on hold. We prepared our pitch. We went and stood in line and pitched our hearts out. And ultimately, that's where we got our first source of funding. And it was great because it was with a strategic partner that really helped us and partnered with us to take it to the next level. And
how much does you've kind of seen people be on, and it's interesting now, the number of people that I've met in this community who've been on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Does it have that just kind of like marketing effect that when it goes out, like sales just like go through the roof?
For us, it didn't.
Oh, okay.
It did not. So we actually didn't close the deal until the Friday night before it aired on Sunday. So just a couple days prior to it airing. And it was funny because friends and family, like there was a couple close people that we had told, and they're like, "There's no way they didn't get it. There's no way they got a deal." Because we were still doing the same stuff. Right. We were still in the same warehouse, still making it ourselves.
Yeah, because I've heard like Mark Cuban talk about there's the on screen, and then they obviously do the real due diligence after to make sure that everything you said is true and this is what we want.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the sharks even want to make sure that the episode's going to air because they know that the awareness that it can create. Right. For us, we had a brand. It was called Mother Beverage before, so it was really niche. It was more geared towards farmers market. It was more sort of adjacent to kombucha. And so, I really think brand is what differentiates a product in the marketplace and gets people excited about it to try it initially. And so we aired as Mother Beverage, and I think it's great, but we were an apple cider vinegar beverage. Like, how many people actually want that? And so while it did give us a little bit of spike. It wasn't like the big spike that maybe some of these other brands have gotten in the past. When we did an update on Shark Tank, and we had taken, the year after Shark Tank to rebrand and reposition. Once we announced, it aired in 2020. Poppi launched in March of 2020. Once that aired, the update with a really great brand, Poppi, that's when we really saw the big spike and the big flywheel.
So what, from a data perspective or what was the thing that said, okay, we've been doing this for, 4 years now, and the brand, either it's limiting or it's not hitting or doesn't have product market fit? Like, what was the instinct or the data that actually led you to think through that?
Think through the rebrand?
The rebrand, yeah.
Yeah, this is where our shark really came in and was helpful. He was behind brands like Vitamin Water and Smart Water, Bai. He was involved in Vita Coco. He was a brand manager at Coca-Cola. So he had classical training on the brand side. And so it was really myself and Allison working alongside Rohan, our shark, as well as Stevie, sort of his right hand and on the branding side. We worked together and we went through a full brand study. And so it was, if Poppi was a car, or if Poppi were to drive a car, what kind of car would it be? What is the personality of Poppi? If it's at the party, is it like the cool girl that's like dancing on the table, or is it like the girl that everybody just like wants to be around and be friends with? So we went through this whole exercise, and I think for us, there were some challenging moments, but really it was just, a lot of it was just intuition.
So you guys were in Dallas. At what point, what caused the move to Austin? Was it personal, or was it the fact that there is such a big CPG scene here, and then also about like Whole Foods being a key component of your guys' growth?
Yeah, I think it was all of that. I just think Austin's got a really great vibe. I just think that it's outdoorsy, it's active, it's young-minded, it's entrepreneurial, and so we were really drawn to Austin for that reason. As you said, we were drawn because it had a great CPG community. There was, Chameleon Cold Brew was here. There was Waterloo that was here. There was Sweet Leaf Tea that was here. There's Whole Foods that was here. So it was just a really great ecosystem. When we thought if moving here, we could sort of tap into that ecosystem and tap into some of the talent that was here in Austin.
So being here now for a number of years in the CPG scene, is there something innate in Austin that has allowed that kind of to grow, or has it just been success 1, 2, just led to it more organically? I think about a lot, and I talk about on the podcast, on the first principles of ecosystems. Like there's a reason that you think about like Silicon Valley, if you kind of take away everything, it really is about like removing friction.
Yeah.
Whether it be when they were doing early semiconductors all the way to obviously the large language models and AI now.
Yeah.
If you look at like New York, I mean, you can draw a straight line from Dutch fur trading to Wall Street. It's always about like how do you scale deals, make those things kind of liquid. And part of the thing that I've been thinking a lot about is like what are the first principles of Austin, and why are these things working and those things aren't, and how do we lean into what makes Austin Austin versus like I hate Silicon Hills, Silicon Beach, Silicon Alley. It's always like we're going to try to be something else.
Yeah. I think that there certainly is a reduction of friction when it comes to starting a business, not just in Austin but in Texas in general. You see a ton of people come into Texas because it's just so pro-business. But I think that there is something innate about Austin, right? It's keep Austin weird. You have Whole Foods, which is, like a grocery, like an all-natural sort of hippie granola grocery chain that was like started out of a house. And so you really have this sort of disruptor mindset of these really sort of young-minded entrepreneurial folks that are wanting to disrupt and change status quo for the better.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that sort of core innate properties of Austin has allowed the ecosystem to flourish. And then I think, as you mentioned, Austin and Texas are just pro-business, right? And so I think that there's a lot of money that's flooded in here, right? And there have been some wins. There's Whole Foods, as I mentioned, all of those other ones. There have been some wins, and so people just get more excited, and there's sort of this flywheel that's going on, right? They see the success, they see other amazing entrepreneurs that they can relate and connect with, and they see dollars available to fund their businesses.
So how do you see, like, what role has Whole Foods, both for you and overall CPG, played, given that it is and was, local? Obviously, it still has a huge presence here. It's owned by Amazon. Like, did it allow for opportunities for smaller companies to really get off the ground, that if it wasn't here, then you have to go to, I don't even know where go to either Bentonville or wherever to kind of break into any of these places?
Yeah, I think, Whole Foods was critical to our story. They, like I said, they gave us that first validation. They worked with us and invested time and likely money into us, like time and resources into us for sure, to help us get off the ground. When we were at the farmer's market, we had no ingredient statement, or we had an ingredient statement. We had no nutrition fact panel on it. The packaging wasn't the greatest. And so they really worked with us and took a risk to invest in us and invest in this product so that it could see the light of day. And they continue to do that. They've got the LEAP program where they take in sort of an incubator program like SKU Accelerator is here, where they bring them in and they teach them and they work with them to get their product shelf ready, and then ultimately they give them a shot. They give them an opportunity to be on the shelf. And so I think that they really, and even going back to the local forager, right? They still have that program that's out there looking for unique and innovative founders, unique and innovative products to bring to market, to continue to bring healthier and better for you options to consumers. So I think they did play and still continue to play a vital role in this CPG community. So
one of the things that I've noticed about, I think it's part of the Keep Austin Weird, it's part of the zeitgeist of Austin, is this loyalty to brands that I've seen. I haven't seen, so I moved from Southern California, and there were things like, like Rubio's Fish Tacos came out of San Diego. You didn't know that unless you kind of like dug through the history a little bit. Versus like, I didn't own a Yeti until I moved here. I think we have like 17 now.
in one drawer, another 17.
Yes, exactly. Cupboard, yes, at one point I took them all out. And the picture was like, what's going on here? Like this, and then of course I've made the mistake at times. We went into like the Yeti store and it was like it didn't leave with that, or same thing. I'm sure as you've gone like to Buc-ee's. It's now like, can we get out of there for less than $100? And the answer is no.
Exactly.
But so like, there's this kind of loyalty, and as we're recording this, it was just near the the floods that happened down near San Antonio. But like, one of the things I didn't know until that was like HEB has like a disaster crew. There's I think part of it I've really seen it is circular. It's a feedback, right? Like they really invest. All these companies like really seem to invest in the community. But I mean, what do you see like that kind of connection between the Austin community and the brands that are here?
Yeah, I think I would like to say it's all of Texas. Texans support Texas brands. I don't know what it is, and sort of maybe goes back to Texas being independent. Right. There's only. I mean, it can fly at the same level as the American flag. So there's a lot of history in that, right? Just that internal support. We're proud to be Texans. We support Texas brands. So I think that there's a lot of that, and I think that sort of heritage has just been continued with a lot of great brands, a lot of great brands, and a lot of great businesses that give back and continue to invest in Texas.
But it's funny how. It's not just, I mean, we see that. We see them giving back. We see all these things. But it comes young. And this thing I was telling you, so I promised my daughter I would read this on air. But for school, she had to do like one of those poems. It's like, every letter of it. And so she made one about Poppi.
Oh, I love that.
And so it was, it's pop in your mouth, open the lid and pour, perfect and so good, pretty on every can, it has a sweet taste.
That's amazing.
Like, this is what she's doing for like school, right? Or the other day was really funny. I was telling you this going on. My 6-year-old, we were looking. We liked the orange cream flavor. And we went to Target and we couldn't find it. And I was like, oh, it's okay. Well, we can just get this other brand that has the orange cream. And deadpan, he looks at me and goes, no, but Poppi has to win.
I
was like, where's this coming from at this point?
You're raising your kids right.
Clearly, yes.
That's all I can say. That's all I can say. Well, first of all, we need to fix orange cream on Target shelves. It's a great flavor, but yeah, I don't know. You know, it's tough to put my finger on it, and I think that there is, as I said, Texans love to support Texas brands, so we have that layer. But I also just think that Poppi has been really unique in the fact that we've just built this brand based on authenticity that really traces back to the founding story and solving a true personal problem. And so carrying that authenticity all the way through to how we interact with community, how we show up, even internally at Poppi, right? One of our core values is we keep it real, and showing up with authenticity and I think that that's just resonated through our community. And also we have, I don't know, a cool brand. We show up in the right places. We build these great relationships with, creators or influencers or celebrities. And so I think that has an impact on that as well, right? We've always viewed Poppi as fashion, which is interesting because it's a beverage.
Yeah, you have to unpack that a little bit.
But it was very intentional from very early on that we wanted to make Poppi a badge, something that people were proud to be seen with and proud to hold, right? And I think it was perfectly timed because eating clean, eating healthy, eating better for you products has really become a status symbol, right? People that shop at Whole Foods versus another store. Right.
I do feel like there's been a bit of a vibe shift in the CPG scene here, that there are a lot more health-focused types of brands that are coming out.
Yeah. I think that there's been a shift where health is the new wealth, right? You think about the longevity craze and how much people are investing time and money and resources into longevity, right? So I think it just plays into all of that. But going back to the initial, the starting point was Poppi is fashion. We wanted it to be something that people wanted to be seen with, a badge, sort of this affordable luxury that people could grab at the store and feel good about themselves and feel engaged and part of the brand because they are, and to be excited and to feel cool while holding the can.
So it's an interesting thing when you talk about. Actually, I'm in bio and health, and I see a lot of what's happening here in Austin being really interesting, especially some of the consumerization. Like you see, health is taking off.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because health is the new wealth, and so how do we think about scaling things like that? Like one of the amazing things in technology, right? Like the phones that you and I use are used by people who have regular means to billion. It's the same phone, right? There isn't some, it's not like the 80s where the only person who had that cell phone was the high end. And when we think about some of the broader implications of health and better food, and that almost surcharge at times that we can see is how do we scale? How do we get it so that people can be eating better at the same price? No easy questions.
That's not easy. I guess there's just certain things. There's a reason we have GMO products and all of these other things is because the first sort of problem that we had as a country was to be able to just feed people across such a vast landscape. Right, we had to make food shelf stable. We had to be able to grow more to feed the citizens of the U.S. So there's that. But I think the interesting thing is, so as you look to make it organic and you look to sort of reduce the scale to increase the quality, there's a cost to that.
Right.
But I think people just need to adjust what they place value on. We've grown up and we still live in this world where medicine is largely reactive, not proactive. Right. And I think that.
And a lot of that, I've spoken, it's I think it's more business model oriented than necessarily. It's not the grand conspiracy.
Big Pharma, you're saying.
Right. As someone who used to also worked at Big Pharma, is when you're okay, so if I can give you, if you're sick, I give you a drug, I get money. That we have a business model for that.
Yep.
Clayton Christensen wrote an entire book about if you're going to be completely changing business models and disruptive technology, the incumbents can't make that switch.
Yeah.
So we have actually cures out there. Like we have CRISPR-based cures that nobody's getting, and everyone wants to go like, oh, it's super expensive. Like, well, that's not the problem. The problem is no one solved the business model of cure side.
Yeah.
Like no one solved the preventative side. The closest we have to preventative, medicine is the gym.
Yeah.
And if, you sign up and don't go, my operating margin's better.
Yeah.
So like not a great business model to actually align up with, sustainable health.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it just goes back to it's not as instantly gratifying as well.
Right.
A lot of these like prescriptions you take, in 12 hours you feel a difference. In an hour you feel different, right? And I think that
so in Christensen's book, he had a healthcare book called Innovator's Prescription.
Yeah.
And there's a 2x2 matrix that hits on exactly what you're saying, that it is stuck in my mind. The book's like 12 years old now at this point. So the x-axis is behavior change required.
Yep.
Y-axis is feedback loop.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so nearsightedness. You can't see, you put on glasses, you can see.
Yep.
Great. There's no change necessary, top left-hand corner. Top right-hand corner, lots of behavior change required, but high feedback loop.
Yeah.
Type 1 diabetes.
Yeah.
You have to do a lot to sustain life in that. But if you don't, you're in the hospital or dead the next day. So people do that.
Yep.
It's that bottom right-hand corner where it's high feedback, it's low feedback and high behavior change that's the evil zone.
Exactly.
Obesity, cardiac disease.
Yeah.
If I eat the cookie,
Yeah.
nothing happens.
Yeah,
If I
exactly.
go to the gym once,
Yeah.
nothing happens.
Exactly.
So it's like, well, that's fine. But of course, what happens is you don't eat one cookie. You don't go to, you do these consistently. And so the question a lot of, I think, in health is how do you move things out of that box, right?
Yeah.
Either increasing the feedback loop or decreasing the behavior change required, right? And so I think it was always funny that I had this app once that was about like, oh, we're gonna take a picture of you, age you 30 years, and it's gonna basically say you should do this, kind of nudge your behavior.
Yeah.
And it did nudge my behavior into deleting the app.
Yeah.
Because it was just a pain,
You're just
right?
like, no. Yeah.
Right. It was just like, I don't
Over it.
You're just bothering me. Like,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, oh, we're gonna do behavior change. We're just like, what are the things to make it actually just invisible and easier? I mean, that's one of the things why Ozempic and all of these are taking up. Is it actually it makes it easier?
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
And so how in any of these sense do we make things simpler, easier, invisible? And that's the big problem I think with health is that it's the one technology that isn't invisible. It requires constant decisions and work.
Yeah, yeah, and I think like part of I think what made Poppi so special, and I think some of this this other movement that we talked about is while it's a lot of behavior change and there's not really a feedback loop, right? There's not a strong feedback loop or an instant feedback loop. Making healthy choices easier, almost not have to be a choice, right? Because it tastes so good, it's better for you. That's the problem Poppi solves.
I think that's the big solve.
Yeah.
Because everyone was like, I want to do this health. I mean, you said that how many people were like, oh, yeah, apple cider vinegar goes amazing.
Yeah.
And it's awful, right?
Exactly. Literally, it's so good for you, taste awful.
Right.
Like the same sentence.
So if you can solve the other way, which is like if you are a good drink that someone wants to have, that happens to be good for you,
Exactly.
Like that's the magic solve.
That was literally the way that we thought about it initially too. Was the cans are colorful, they're pretty, they're eye-catching, and so we wanted someone to be walking down the grocery store aisle, and their eye catches a really pretty can, colorful can, pick it up, be like, oh my gosh, this looks cool. Take it home, they crack it open, drink it. Oh my gosh, this tastes amazing. And while they're drinking it, they flip it on the back. They're like, oh my gosh, this is great. 5 grams of sugar. There's prebiotics in it. Like this stuff is great. So making that decision really easy was in that consumer journey was top of mind for us. And I think like there are some things that are going to be a pain as we talk about behavior change, right? Going to the gym and eating healthy every day. Like it's a lot, right? Yeah. And I think like where a lot of people love to be is one extreme or the other. Like how do we sort of keep that pendulum swinging sort of here, right? Where you don't have to be, all one thing or all another thing. Yeah. You can find a balance, right? So, but then I think the other thing on top of that is making that lifestyle cool. And I think that movement is really happening as we talk about health is the new wealth, right? So being seen with a Poppi is cool, right? It makes it even easier for the people that weren't maybe necessarily thinking about better for you choices, makes them more likely to go grab one because it's like, oh, they're doing it. And they're like, I think that they're cool, or they're a celebrity, or they're an influencer. You know, going to the gym is becoming cooler, running is becoming cooler. So being active. And so I think even though it still requires the same amount of behavior change, it's easier for people to show up because it allows them to be part of this community that's doing better.
But we talk about like the celebrity and the influencers. Back to almost that first question, how do you break through to not be like just the fad, right?
Yeah.
Is especially something that, you know, you could say like, okay, here's the healthy soda. You know, if you want to be around for 50 years, it's just got to be like, this is the great product, not this happens to be the healthy soda, the prebiotic, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How do you break through that, especially when dealing with kind of the marketing aspect, the influencers, just playing into the zeitgeist? It works when it's working for you, but there are moments when it's not.
Yeah. I think fads are loud and flashy, screaming at, you need this, you need this, you need this. I think sustaining brands or sustaining trends are really brands that are, solving those quiet but very real problems that people have, right? And I think even aside from gut health, we sort of put that aside, and that was a surprise and delight. Reaching those early consumers, we were sort of leaning more towards gut health, but really like the biggest opportunity we saw and the biggest problem is like people want great tasting products, right? We love sweet things, particularly here in America. And so how can we just make that decision easier for people? And so that was the real problem that we were trying to solve, right? Is how can you give them a great tasting product that they love, a brand that they love, and it's only got 5 grams of sugar as opposed to 39 to 42 in a regular 12-ounce can of soda.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy. And then they have the added benefits of apple cider vinegar and the added benefits of prebiotics as well.
So I'm assuming this is a lot to do with the acquisition by Pepsi, but when you're getting to scale and probably, I don't know what before the acquisition, what your U.S. market versus like international, but you made a great point, like taste is so regional. I mean, one of the things I remember when I was in business school that like just opened my eyes was we had to do it was like one of the first projects. It was like reorganizating a candy store, right?
Yep.
And I happened to on our team have a student from Japan, and he was like, "It's different. He convinced us to think regionally.
Yeah.
He literally brought us Japanese candy.
Yeah.
It was like, this doesn't taste like what you guys are used to.
Yeah.
And so, how do you think about like international growth and just the idea of taste being so local?
Yeah, it's something top of mind. Poppi's about to launch into the UK, and so we went out there and we tried the products. We'll also do consumer testing with local people there. Some of the flavor profiles are different. Like I said, the sweetness profiles are different. So, I think for us, obviously, as we go into countries that are vastly different from ours, like Japan or any sort of Asian culture or country, those are going to be vastly different, and those will likely require completely different flavor profiles or adjustments to ingredients or to sweetness levels or to tartness or whatever that may be. And we're even looking into some technology. There was this one company that uses AI and sort of this tech that basically mimics the palate and is able to sort of pinpoint the various palates from people all over the world, right? So you can really use this data to tap in, what are the flavor profiles, what is the right balance of sweetness versus acidity and things like that. So that's something top of mind, and we did a lot of work on the products that we're going to be launching in the UK.
Okay. How different would you say the UK flavor palette is to that? Like I obviously said, I know that like the East Asian, like I've gotten that sense, but obviously I've been to London.
I don't think that they were too terribly different, just because I think our product is Poppi is, I don't know, probably only 60 or 70% of the sweetness as a regular soda.
Okay.
Right, and so I think it's going to be, we believe, a pretty easy transition over to UK. There's obviously other requirements that we need to comply with that the UK has, but I think in general.
There's a European regulatory joke, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got to comply with all of those things. But it was really easy for us because our product is just clean. We didn't have to change any ingredients. And so really the product that's in the U.S. will be going into the UK with just very slight tweaks.
Okay. I want to circle back to Austin for a moment because I know that you had said like you moved here for the talent. How are you seeing like the intersection of the CPG scene, the tech scene? Are you guys fighting over similar talent? Is completely different? Like what's the or I found in some cases they feel very separate. Like obviously it's the VCs involved. Like I don't know many crossover VCs. It just seems to be different. But what is your kind of on the ground? What is your feeling?
I would agree with your perspective. They feel very different. Consumer is so dependent on brand building, and tech products necessarily aren't. Right? A lot of them can be B2B. They can be in the background solving really big, unsexy problems, right? But huge opportunities. And I think that the appetite for tech venture is different than the appetite for consumer. And I think just the margin profile of tech versus CPG is completely different, right? Your ability to iterate and change things in tech, rewrite some code, is much different than, okay, I spent $5 million. I launched this product. It's at 30,000 retail locations across the country in 150 distributors. Okay, people don't like it. What do you do? Like how do you So
right.
and lead times are much different. So I think that there's just a different appetite.
But what's interesting in Austin though is we're a lot more. The phrase is it's the convergence of atoms, bits, and intelligence. So we have a lot more physical things. Whether they be autonomous vehicles, robots, 3D printers for houses, defense tech. And so there is some similarity, like the big argument always has been in hard tech is like, is the margin profile, you said like so much, worse than that. But then obviously the defensibility when you're building that out and you have the like that in it alone is its own level of moat. Yeah. And so I would be curious, especially since you have to, so when you scale, we talked about when you went into Whole Foods, you had the warehouse. I'm assuming you scaled manufacturing since then.
Yep.
I mean, there becomes a little more of a rhyme with more of that kind of physical hard tech. Do you see, again, you still have not seen much overlap in either the talent that you guys are going for or?
Yep. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've seen a ton of overlap in talent. And I think maybe that's just because there's such. I think where I'm seeing some of the overlap is really those tech-enabled consumer brands.
Okay.
Right, where you are pulling some folks from traditional CPG, you're pulling people from tech. Think about like a product like 8 Sleep, something like that. I'm involved in this business called Orion, which is sort of a competitor to 8 Sleep, and sort of finding that as we build the team, finding that balance between who are the tech folks and who are the consumer folks, and how do we bring them together to develop a great product, but also create a great brand that the consumers and community will love. So I haven't seen I haven't seen a ton of
8 Sleep's the only
overlap.
mattress that I know people who are just like obsessed with that brand.
Yeah.
And so how much brand matters. I mean, the whole point, you want to be Kleenex, not the other tissue guy.
Exactly. I mean, brand matters a lot. It can't just be only brand. You've got to have a great product.
Yeah. Otherwise, your brand means something else that you don't want it to mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or there's no repeat.
Right.
You get people to try your product because you've got a great package, you've got a great ad campaign, you've got great connectivity and sort of the social zeitgeist. But if your product sucks, like they're not going to come back.
Yeah.
So you really need both. And so maybe that's where the overlap is coming. But I've seen, and maybe this is just me living under a rock, building Poppi for the last 5-6 years, just completely heads down. Plus we've got 3 kids. And so maybe
I understand that.
Maybe I'm just like living under a rock, but I haven't seen a ton of crossover between tech and CPG.
One of the things I think Austin has such an ability for these amazing weird connections. Then you said if you've got the CPG person and like the biologist and the software. I don't know what the heck. Like that's going to create really interesting, weird combinations.
Yeah.
But I have found that as we are scaling, Austin is fragmented, both from the perspective of sectorally, and then even sometimes within certain sectors, like you don't even realize how big they are because the sector in itself is just everyone's heads down.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm a heads down building, and then some of those kind of interesting threads that we need to kind of pull through to really get those weird kind of connections, and then. I always hate when I was like, oh, well, it's got to be all downtown. It's all this. And like, it was like, you understand how big the Bay Area is, right? Like, if I'm going to go from Palo Alto to SF, it's not 5 seconds, right?
Definitely not.
And so, like, we have everything from, you got to be up in Cedar Park or Bastrop to be doing things with rockets because you can't build a rocket downtown. To, you have neighborhoods. You have, like, the manufacturing neighborhood. You have these kind of different things. And then how do we think about, like, making those creative collisions happen, because then really cool stuff happens.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of those things are starting to happen more. I think South by Southwest is probably a pretty good example where there's like a melting pot of tech and CPG. There's a lot of great things where they're starting to bring people together, but I think we need more of that. And I think it's also one of those things too, like there's such a community of young-minded folks that are just grinding and hustling because they're so passionate about what they're doing. Is sometimes picking up our head for a little bit and coming together. So I think there's a little bit of that too.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed kind of a rhyme across the companies that are really making it well in Austin is it's mission-driven.
Yeah.
It's not like here's the next. No, there's anything wrong with the next B2B SaaS company, but it's like I want to get to Mars. I want to solve the housing crisis. We want to make health easier, right? Yeah. And like those are the kinds of mindsets that are here. I mean, it's one of the reasons I could talk about, like, it's radical founders, but are abundance-minded and mission-driven. And so I've described Austin a lot as like the frontier. And it really is. It is this kind of, we track cowboys of every shape and size.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. And I think it just goes back to that trend of authenticity, right? It's people are sick of being sold a bill of goods, right? And that's what I found is those founders that are selling something that people actually need and actually want, and aren't just like being taken advantage of to make a quick buck. I think that those are the brands that make it, the companies that make it, and I think that those are the healthiest companies to work at, because people can get behind those types of missions, right? Nobody wants to be selling cigarettes. Like like it would be hard for me to imagine selling cigarettes in this day and age, knowing what we know about it. It just wouldn't feel good. But I think like going to Mars or changing the way people think about food, or changing some sort of tech enablement that like allows people to do things easier through life, like there's a nobility to that, right? You're impacting significant change for the good.
And the thing that always drives me nuts is there's a group, and I think it's too large of a group, that have like, I'm going into entrepreneurship because I want to be rich. Yeah. Like that's the starting line, right? In that, and versus like, you understand, like, to be back to our point at the beginning of being entrepreneurial, and like if you knew what you actually knew to succeed, like you're like, I would never do this. Like there's a certain kind of, it really actually has to be a bit more counter narrative and countercultural. But the part I always want to flip is like, if you start with the mission and have a huge mission, the money will come, right? Yeah. Like that, like if you solve the real problems, people pay for value. Yeah. And it's usually the other side. It's like, those are the ones that don't sustain, because then you say like, well, this fad, this trend, this wall, whatever, I'm not willing to break through the wall because I'm not getting the things that I want to get.
Yeah. Money's a result of doing something well.
Yes.
Right? It definitely shouldn't be the goal. I think I'd be remiss to say that there's not a lot of founders or entrepreneurs that are out there to gain, to get their bag, right? To make money. But I think, at least for me, it's not necessarily about the money or the material things. It's about the freedom of time.
Yeah.
Once again, I think entrepreneurs just they they're passionate about things and they want to do what they want to do because they think they're great ideas and they think they can, impact a lot of people in a great way. And so, I think money is a portion of things, but it's
Sure.
really what is that money ultimately get for you.
It's a tool.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's a tool. I mean, a lot of people, it's interesting. When I saw like Palmer Luckey in an interview recently that was talking about how like he's in this like billionaire exits group chat.
Yeah.
And like there's a group who are just like, we did it. I got on my yacht. I'm awesome. And then there's a second group that are like, okay, now I can go bigger.
Yeah.
Like it's a tool to allow me to do even bigger things that I wanted to do, even bigger missions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I find that mindset, don't have as many billion exits yet, present company excluded. But that mindset I think is here a lot more in that, and I think that's starting to become part of the brand, right? We kind of see all this stuff trying to change the world, and then also I think, and it's interesting is that one of the ways I put it, like we're living in the future, and what that means is we're creating innovations and deploying them here. And I think whether it be the CPGs using here as the kind of the testing ground for it, to the fact that we get Waymos and robo-taxis running all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it just goes back to that young-minded energy, right? And I say young-minded because there's young people and there's middle-aged people and there's old people that are doing it, right? But it's this. It just goes back to that growth mindset. I think that's so present here in Austin is like, how can we just continue to get 1% better every single day? And I think it's just showing up with that mindset is obviously the manifestation of doing great things.
Yeah.
Right? It has nothing to do with creating wealth for yourself or obtaining money or the house or the car or whatever. It literally is, how can we just continue to get better each and every day? Whether that's with consumer products, whether that's with tech or whatever it is, I think that is really core to the fabric of Austin, and it makes it so exciting, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is kind of a perfect place. I think that I always like to end with the same question.
Yeah.
What's next, Austin?
1% better every day. Yeah.
Perfect. Compounding is a powerful thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited for Austin. So many great people here. If we could change the weather in the summer, just, like 10 degrees, 15 degrees, like that would be cool. No, all joking aside, though, I think people they come here and they stay here because they love it. Great people, great energy, and just great ideas and disruption coming out of Austin.
Yeah, the weather, we're forged in the fire of the summers of Texas.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Stephen, this has been great. Thanks for joining the pod.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
So what's next, Austin? We're glad you've joined us on this journey. Please subscribe at your favorite podcast catcher, leave us a review, and let your colleagues know about us. This will help us grow the podcast and continue bringing you unique interviews and insights. Thanks again for listening, and see you soon.